All right, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Okay, good. Today, we're tackling a story that's, well, it's part history, part legend, I guess you could say.
Oh, I like those.
Yeah, right. It's the tale of Marbod, the almost emperor.
Uh,
This guy, he's this really fascinating figure from, ancient Germanic history. He built this kingdom, super powerful, actually rivaled Rome for a time.
wow.
Yeah, we're going to be talking ambition, power struggles. I mean, this guy's life, it really reads like a movie script.
I can imagine,
And of course, it has that tragic ending.
of course. So where are we going for information on this guy?
Well, we're basing our deep dive today on Marbod's German Wikipedia page.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at his life, what we actually know about him, which is always a bit tricky with these ancient figures,
Right.
and how modern historians kind of grapple with his legacy.
Always interesting to see how perspectives change over time.
Definitely. So, Marbod, what makes this guy so intriguing to you?
What I find really fascinating about him is that he kind of embodies this clash between the Germanic world and the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Born around 30 BC into a noble Marcomanni family, and that's a Suebian tribe, by the way.
Oh, okay.
He was known for his strength, courage, and, well, let's be honest, his sheer ambition. But here's where things get kind of interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
Instead of just staying, firmly rooted in the Germanic world, young Marbod spends time in Rome. He possibly even becomes a Roman citizen, receives military training.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't see that every day from a future Germanic leader, do you?
That's for sure.
Yeah,
That definitely sets the stage for, like a really complicated relationship with Rome.
absolutely.
It's a time when Rome is really flexing its muscles, expanding its influence, across Europe.
Hmm.
And here's Marmod basically learning the ropes from the inside.
Right.
And then he goes back to Germania. And, well, let's just say he doesn't roll out the welcome mat for the Romans.
Exactly. He doesn't just, bow to Roman pressure. He leads his people east, away from Roman control. Establishes this powerful kingdom, the Marbod Reich, in Bohemia. And this move, it was incredibly savvy for a few reasons.
Like what?
Well, first, it provided a buffer against direct Roman conquest. They had to go through this kingdom now.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it allowed him to solidify a unique identity for the Marcomanni, setting them apart from other Germanic tribes who were, at that point, being absorbed into the Roman sphere of influence.
So he's using what he learned from the Romans to essentially outmaneuver them, right?
Exactly.
But how does this kingdom actually come about, this Marbodreich? How does he do it?
Well, this is where Marbod really distinguishes himself. He doesn't just become a chieftain or a warlord. He takes the title of king.
King.
And that was a title pretty much unheard of amongst the Germanic tribes at that time.
Really?
Yeah, it was a bold statement, a clear signal that he was aiming for a different kind of leadership, one that transcended traditional tribal structures.
So right off the bat, he's shaking things up.
Yeah.
But it's not just about, a fancy title, right? He has to build the kingdom, bring all these different groups together. And I'm guessing that wasn't exactly a walk in the park.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. Marbod managed to forge this, powerful tribal confederation, bringing in tribes like the Hermunduri, the Semnones, even the Lombards under his rule.
Wow.
Imagine, right? All the diplomacy, the power plays, the negotiations involved in pulling that off.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
And the result is a kingdom that stretched from the Danube to the Baltic Sea, bordering Roman Pannonia,
Yeah.
creating this massive power block right on Rome's doorstep.
So how does Rome, with all its legions, its emperors, how did they react to this up-and-coming king on their border?
Well, at first, things seem relatively stable. There's diplomacy, there's trade,
Okay.
but it's a very delicate balancing act, right?
Mm.
Marbod's clearly a force to be reckoned with, especially with this impressive military might he's built up. He assembled a large, disciplined army, and it was trained in Roman tactics. We're talking 70,000 infantry and 4,000 cavalry.
Whoa.
This wasn't just like a band of warriors. This was a professional fighting force.
That could go toe-to-toe with the legions?
Exactly.
That's a pretty clear message to Rome. Don't mess with me. But I'm guessing Rome doesn't back down easily.
You're catching on.
Yeah.
As Marbod's power grows, particularly his influence over the Semnones, alarm bells start ringing in Rome.
You can imagine.
Remember, the Semnones, they lived along the Elbe River, which was a strategically vital area for Roman expansion into Germania.
Ah, okay.
Augustus, the emperor at the time, He sees Marbod as the last major obstacle standing in his way.
Right.
He views him as a threat that needs to be dealt with.
And that's where things start to heat up.
You got it.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the life of Marbod the Almost Emperor. Last time we left off with Marbod's kingdom, still intact but facing that looming shadow of Rome. And then boom, the Roman world is totally rocked by the Battle of Teutoburg Forest, 9 AD. Can you imagine the shockwaves that must have sent through Germania?
Well, absolutely. Monumental event. I mean, here you have Arminius, right? Germanic chieftain.
Yeah.
And he had actually served in the Roman army.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he orchestrates this stunning victory against three entire Roman legions.
3 whole legions.
Gone. That's incredible.
It sent a clear message, right? Rome was not invincible. And it really, opened up a whole world of possibilities for the Germanic tribes.
And it put Marbod in a really fascinating position, don't you think?
No, absolutely.
You have Arminius fresh off this incredible victory, reaching out to Marbod, offering him, let's join forces. Let's make a united Germanic front against Rome.
Huge opportunity.
Yeah. He even sends Varus's severed head, as like proof and a powerful incentive. Yeah, a bold move by Arminius. I mean, he understood that a united Germania could pose a serious threat to Rome's ambitions. But for Marbod, I mean, this offer came with some pretty big risks.
So what does he do? Does he seize this chance, break free from Roman influence?
He doesn't.
He doesn't.
Nope. Marbod, perhaps, thinking like the Roman strategist he was trained to be, chooses neutrality.
Neutrality.
Yeah. He not only refuses the alliance, but he sends Varus's head to Augustus.
Oh, wow.
A calculated move, right? Designed to appease Rome, maintain his own position.
So instead of joining this potential revolution, he sides with the empire he spent years, building a kingdom to resist.
Right. Seems like a contradiction, doesn't it?
It really does.
A decision that historians still debate today. You know? Some see it as a betrayal of the Germanic cause, this missed opportunity to really forge, truly independent Germania.
Right.
Others argue that, Marbod was playing a longer game, recognizing that an all-out war with Rome, it could have been disastrous for his kingdom.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Remember, he was a pragmatist.
Yeah.
A builder.
Yeah.
And he had created this powerful and prosperous kingdom, risking all that for an uncertain alliance with Arminius. It might have seemed like, a gamble too far.
It's almost as if he's caught between these two worlds, unable to fully commit to either side.
Yeah, great way to put it.
But I imagine this decision, didn't exactly win him any favors with Arminius, right?
Absolutely not. Refusing the alliance, that effectively cemented the rivalry between them. They were both powerful leaders, each with their own ambitions for Germania.
And this rivalry eventually leads to a showdown, right? A clash of the titans, basically.
It does. In 17 AD, the inevitable happens. Marbod and Arminius face off in a battle. That, unfortunately, is a bit shrouded in mystery.
Oh.
Yeah. Sources we have, mostly Roman, by the way, are a bit biased against Marbod. They paint him as the aggressor. But what really sparked the conflict, who threw the first punch, so to speak, it remains unclear.
So we're left with more questions than answers. Typical ancient history.
It happens.
But what about the battle itself? Who won?
It was inconclusive.
Oh.
Yeah. Neither side achieved a decisive victory, really. But the clash, it definitely took a toll on Marbod. He faced desertions, his authority was challenged, and, the cracks in his power structure, they began to widen.
So it wasn't an outright defeat, but it sounds like this conflict with Arminius was the turning point, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The beginning of Marbod's decline. What led to his fall, ultimately?
It was a combination of things, internal and external pressures. Remember Marbod's power. It was based on this delicate balance of alliances.
Yeah.
The clash with Arminius that really weakened his position, emboldening his rivals. And within his own kingdom, you had these nobles growing restless, perhaps seeing an opportunity, seize power for themselves. And then there was Rome, of course.
Always lurking in the background.
Always ready to exploit any weakness.
So it wasn't just one event, a perfect storm of challenges.
Exactly. And the final blow that comes from a familiar figure, Catualda, that rival Marcomanni nobleman.
Oh, yeah.
He returns from exile.
From where?
Among the Goths. Rallies support against Marbod, capitalizes on the growing discontent.
Yeah.
And perhaps even receives some, covert Roman support.
So Marbod, the king who built a kingdom to resist Rome, is brought down by a rival backed by Rome.
It's a cruel twist of fate, isn't it?
It really is.
Cadwalder seizes Marbod's capital, and Marbod is forced to flee.
So what happens to him? Where does he go?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Marbod, the king who once defied Rome, the leader who built this whole kingdom on its borders, he ends up seeking refuge in Rome itself.
No way. He turns to the very empire he spent his life resisting.
Seems unbelievable, doesn't it?
It does.
But that's what happens. Marbod, stripped of his power, facing enemies on all sides, he throws himself at the mercy of Rome.
Wow, that's a turn of events I didn't see coming.
It's quite a story, isn't it?
What does Rome do? How do they handle this, this fallen king who was once their rival?
Well, that's a story for part 3 of our deep dive. We'll explore how Rome spins Marbod's downfall to their advantage and dive into that final chapter of his life.
All right, another cliffhanger. I'm hooked. It's amazing how Marbod's story just keeps taking these unexpected turns.
It's wild, right?
It really is.
Just goes to show that history is, well, it's rarely straightforward. It's this complex tapestry of ambition, rivalry, and shifting allegiances.
Yeah.
In Marbod's case, it really highlights how precarious power can be, especially when you're caught between two worlds like that.
I can't wait to hear what happens next. Okay, we're back, ready to wrap up our deep dive into Marbod, the almost emperor.
I'm ready.
So we've seen his rise, right? The challenges to Rome, that dramatic downfall. And now, well, he's fled his own kingdom. He sought refuge inside the very empire he defied for so long.
It's quite the turn of events.
It really is. I mean, what must have been going through his mind?
Right.
Crossing that border, a man who built his whole reputation on resisting Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Forging this powerful Germanic kingdom, like, right on their doorstep.
And yet, he needs their protection now.
The irony isn't lost, is it?
Not at all. So how does Rome handle this? I mean, Tiberius is emperor, right?
Yeah.
Do they welcome him with open arms, throw him in chains? What happens?
Well, it's a bit more nuanced, I'd say.
Okay.
Tiberius, he grants Marbod asylum in Ravenna.
Okay.
That's a city in northern Italy.
Okay.
But it's not exactly, a hero's welcome.
Right.
Tiberius, he was a shrewd politician.
Yeah.
He uses Marbod's downfall to his advantage.
How so?
Well, gives this speech to the Roman Senate.
Oh, okay.
And in it, he portrays Marbod as this, formidable threat that Rome has finally neutralized.
I'd say.
He kind of inflates Marbod's past danger to really play up the Roman victory. Yeah?
So even in defeat, Marbod is a tool in Rome's political games.
Exactly. Make yourself look stronger by making the fallen enemy seem even more powerful. Classic move.
And what about Marbod? What does he do during these, final years in exile? Does he try to, I don't know, get back his power, plot revenge? What happens?
From what we know, Marbod, he just lives out his days in Ravenna. Dies there in 37 A.D. He's basically a prisoner in a gilded cage, right? Allowed to live comfortably, but under Roman supervision, Power, influence, all gone. A far cry from the king who challenged Rome.
What a tragic end to a life. I mean, full of such ambition, so much turmoil. But his story doesn't just end there, right?
No, not at all. I mean, Marbod's legacy, it still fascinates historians, sparks debate,
Oh, yeah.
His story, it raises so many questions about leadership, ambition, the choices we make when we're facing, well, seemingly impossible odds,
Yeah.
Was he a visionary, someone who tried to really unify the Germanic tribes against Rome? Or was he just too pragmatic, too focused on his own power to seize that moment for real, lasting change?
It's that decision to stay neutral, right? After Teutoburg Forest. That seems to be like the defining moment for a lot of historians. What if he had joined Arminius? I mean, could they have created this truly independent Germania?
Yeah, it's one of those big what-ifs of history, isn't it?
It is.
But, we have to remember, too, judging these historical figures just by what happened because of their choices.
Yeah.
What could be tricky? Marbod, he was operating in this really complex, volatile world. He had to weigh those potential benefits of siding with Arminius against the very real risks to his own kingdom. I mean, could he really justify throwing it all away?
It's like he was trapped, between those two worlds, trying to, walk this line, preserve his power, protect his people.
I think that's a great way to put it. Marbod's story, it isn't just about, power struggles, military campaigns. It's about those challenges of leadership, the burdens, the responsibility, those difficult choices that, well, leaders just have to make sometimes.
It reminds us that history isn't, this clear-cut thing. It's messy, isn't it?
It is. Full of shades of gray, multiple perspectives, individuals wrestling with, complex situations.
So as we wrap up here, our deep dive into Marbod, What stands out to you? What does his story tell us about leadership, ambition, and the course of history?
For me, it's that even the most ambitious plans, well, they can be totally disrupted. Power is fleeting, and the choices we make, they can have, these unintended consequences that really ripple through time.
It's a story that really makes you think about how we view history, right?
It does.
About those different perspectives that shape our understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been fascinating, exploring the life of this, complex and enigmatic figure.
He really was.
He rose to power, challenged an empire, and met a tragic end far from the kingdom he built.
It's a story that sticks with you.
But it's a story that reminds us of the power of ambition, the complexities of leadership, and those what-ifs that, well, they always linger in history, don't they? So what will you take away from this deep dive? We hope it's made you curious, left you thinking about the threads that, weave together the story of Marbod, the almost emperor. Until next time.
Thank you for listening. If you love history, don't forget to subscribe to History with Bree and Peter. Join us for more fascinating stories from the past. Hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode.